Everybody be cool. You be cool. Hello everyone, you're on a new episode of The Final Cut, and today I'm going to be going over my review and thoughts of From Dusk Till Dawn from 1996. It is directed by Robert Rodriguez, stars George Clooney as Seth Gecko, Quentin Tarantino as Richard Gecko, Harvey Keitel as Jacob Fuller, Juliette Lewis as Kate Fuller, Ernest Liu as Scott Fuller, Selma Hayek as Santanico Pandemonium, Tom Savini as Sex Machine, Fred Williamson as Frost, Michael Parks as Texas Ranger Earl McGraw, and Danny Trejo as Razor Charlie, with 3 appearances from Cheech Marin as a border guard, a vampire, and Carlos. That's the cast and crew, so what is From Dusk Till Dawn about? Pretty much it revolves around the Gecko brothers, played by George Clooney and Quentin Tarantino. They're on the run, they just robbed this bank, and it starts with a violent gas station shootout. Eventually with them basically kidnapping a family in an RV led by Harvey Keitel, the Fuller family. He's a widower. He used to be a preacher, and he's on a vacation with his son and daughter, trying to grieve the death of his wife. So he basically thought that they needed a vacation. He got an RV, and this is like their vacation time. And it is during this where they go to a hotel where the Gecko brothers are hiding out on, and the Gecko brothers pretty much hijack the RV with the family, take them hostage, and they have to get across the border onto Mexico. And that's the first half of the film. They end up stopping at this place called the Titty Twister, which is pretty much like a stripper bar, and that's when the film really turns south. It pretty much becomes a blood fest. Vampires infect that area, and they're trapped in this one building, fending for their lives. And that is pretty much the basic plot of From Dusk Till Dawn. Other films that are very similar to From Dusk Till Dawn would include 1998's John Carpenter's Vampires, or the 1987 film Near Dark, directed by Catherine Bigelow. It definitely has that kind of southern vampire vibe, but also it's kind of like Predator in the way that it starts off as one movie. In this instance, it's a crime film for the first half, and then the second half it becomes a totally, completely different movie, which is a vampire survival horror film. So I like it for that fact. Now me personally, I kind of like the TV series better than the movie From Dusk Till Dawn. Some of the vampires are just a little cheesy, but they do borrow a lot from European vampires, with the exception of Santanico Pandemonium, who was borrowed from basically culebras, the creatures that were in like Mexican mythology that were like their interpretations of vampires. So I like how they get a little bit of like the Mayan type of culture in this film. Ultimately, it's a traditional vampire film. They're not romanticized, they're monsters, and that's one thing I respect about From Dusk Till Dawn. From Dusk Till Dawn is just vampires. At their basic core, there's monsters who feed on blood. You get turned by them, there's no romanticized aspect of it. You're a monster now, you're damned, your soul is lost. And I like that element of the film. And it's not afraid to take punches, it's not afraid to have some casualties along the way. The stakes are high. You feel for the Fuller family, you feel for Seth Gecko with his brother in this, with all the vampires surrounding them. Personally, I like the crime part of the movie much better than the vampire horror film, but reviewing it as a horror film, it's not entirely that scary, but there are certain moments, but I do like the effects, the makeup, the gore, all done practically. Who could forget Selma Hayek as Santanico Pandemonium? That snake dance is the stuff of legends. Tito and Tarantula playing After Dark. I mean, it is just a great snake dance part. Cheech there, Danny Trejo as Razor Charlie. You have different actors. Tom Savini as Sex Machine, the legendary Tom Savini with his work behind the scenes and in front of the camera, you really get to see him as the role of Sex Machine in this type of hunter badass character. And you also have Fred Williamson, who is in many films in the 70s and 80s, as a character in this. I also like Harvey Keitel as the father in this, as a preacher. He's a very religious man. It's a very different role than the one in Pulp Fiction or Reservoir Dogs. And besides Robert Kurtzman, you also have Quentin Tarantino writing the story of this right after Pulp Fiction. It was the first script that he was paid to write. Right after the success of Pulp Fiction, and Robert Rodriguez did this right after the success of Desperado from 1995. Also, this was George Clooney's first feature film. He was on the television show ER, and I have to say, besides Danny Ocean, this is probably one of my favorite roles of George Clooney. He is just a guy who does not give a flying fuck about things. I love his character in this. He's a guy who really doesn't give a care, yet does things, I guess, out of the goodness of his heart and survival when push comes to shove towards the end of the film. He even improvised the line about him already having an ex-wife or whatever when Santanico Pandemonium says, "Welcome to slavery." Overall, the plot, again, it basically starts as one movie and finishes as another movie. I love the whole opening with the Blasters version of Dark Knight playing. Such an atmospheric, just cool film. I mean, it's just the epitome of cool in a way. Imagine like Pulp Fiction and Desperado had a baby inside of a horror film like Near Dark. That's pretty much what From Dusk Till Dawn is. So if I had to give From Dusk Till Dawn a score, I would give it a 3 out of 5 and a B. It makes the final cut in my eyes. It's not the greatest vampire movie ever made, but it's probably the most loyal to the original rules, and it's just a fun ride. For me personally, there's a lot of people who like it out there, and I'm glad you do. Just let me know in the comments below, what did you think of the film? For me personally, though, it's not my favorite vampire movie, but I can see the appeal of it, and I do respect it for what it does, for what it honors from previous incarnations and what it tries to do differently to separate itself from previous vampire works. And who could forget that ending where it ties into like the Mayan mythology and the Aztecs? I mean, that is just cool. But above that, the performances are solid. Quentin Tarantino's really crazy as Richie. Like, he imagines stuff, and he's very serial killer-like. Yeah, he's just nuts. He's just crazy in this. But George Clooney and Harvey Keitel really are the shining lights in this. And then Selma Hayek, even for a brief role, is just like, wow. Yeah, you'll kneel at the heels of Santanico Pandemonium after watching this. That is probably one of the most iconic scenes in cinema history. Juliette Lewis does a good job, as well as Ernest Liu. But overall, it's a very good film, and Selma Hayek on that dance scene did not have a choreographer. Robert Rodriguez just said, go with the flow of the music, and they did that for both the television show and the film, and it works. It really does. Also, they have to use green blood to basically move past the censors for the gore and the makeup. There's some scary, scary stuff in this. Different creatures, different bats, different vampire stuff. It is just really well done with the makeup and visual effects in this. And there's some really crazy scenes involving gore and just practical makeup. Even with Sex Machine turning to this weird type of chupacabra werewolf vampire thing. I don't know what it is, some type of hellhound. It is just some crazy, crazy stuff. I also like how you have Cheech play many different roles. It really shows how versatile of an actor he is. Compared to Cheech and Chong and some other things in Desperado, you have him as a border security guard, you have him as a vampire at the titty twister, and then you have him as Carlos at the end. It really just shows you the different type of range he has as an actor that you usually don't get to see in other films. And Quentin Tarantino was originally going to direct this, but he decided to basically focus more on the writing and playing the character of Richard Gecko. And yeah, it just has its place among vampire films of history and cinema. So yeah, it makes the final cut. I give it a 3 out of 5 and a B. If you have not seen From Dusk Till Dawn, I would highly recommend checking it out. It's an enjoyable ride for what it is, and you'll have a great time. Now, if you have checked out From Dusk Till Dawn, let me know in the comments below. Discuss it. What did you think of the film, and what are your favorite parts? Mine's probably the opening part where it's just like, everybody be cool. You be cool. I love that moment. So yeah, let me know in the comments below, what did you think of the film? If you have not checked it out, check it out. Anyway, that's all for my little short episode of The Final Cut. I hope you enjoyed this. If you liked the video, click the like button, comment, and subscribe for more videos. Until next time.